Cambodia has really, a real change has come when a member of the opposition like Sochua is able to call in the National Assembly in Phnom Penh a hearing like this with witnesses like this from civil society to have a discussion there. That's when the situation, I think, we're further along down the track. Unfortunately, I think we're still closer to where we were in 1991 than we would like to be. I'd like to focus very specifically and quickly on a potential point of leverage, and that is the U.S.'s growing relationship, its military relationship with the Cambodian government. And I want to be very clear here that we are not in any way philosophically opposed to these kinds of military training programs in certain circumstances. We think that they can be quite helpful. Much depends on whether the right kind of vetting is being done and whether really thoughtful oversight is given to the programs and to their participants. Since 2006, the U.S. has provided approximately $4.5 million worth of funding via equipment and training to the Cambodian armed forces through FMF. I realize that's not a big number, but this is something that the Cambodian government, particularly the military, care about. Many of the units within the Cambodian security forces, not just the army, but the police as well, bodyguard units, have appalling track records with respect to human rights issues. I want to give you an example of one particular unit with which the U.S. has been involved. That is Brigade 31, which was formerly known as Division 44 and subsequently Battalion 44, which continues to operate under its longtime commander, Brigadier General Srun Sarun, has a particularly bad track record. Its soldiers are alleged to have executed Funsen Pak soldiers during the 1997 coup d'etat and fired gunshots over the heads of human rights officials from the United Nations who investigated the killings. Headquartered in Kampong Spu province, the brigade also has long been accused of involvement in illegal logging throughout southern Cambodia. In recent years, its commanders have also been implicated in land grabbing from poor villagers. Most recently, the commander of Brigade 31 has publicly confirmed that his unit used U.S.-donated trucks to move villagers forcibly evicted by soldiers under his command in Kampong province in 2008. Now, I do not blame the State Department or the DoD about what happened to one particular truck. We know that that may be a little bit beyond the ability of vetting. But the point here is that we've obviously got to step up our game to make sure that those aren't U.S. trucks turning up in those photographs we've all just seen. In addition, Brigade 31 assumed a maritime security mandate in late 2006 or early 2007, the same time as an October 2006 joint defense assessment by RCAF and the U.S. Pacific Command, which identified maritime security as one of the areas for U.S. support. This raises the question of whether the Cambodian military deliberately gave the brigade-enabled mandate in order to obtain U.S. assistance. If so, this is a clear case of a military unit with a poor human rights record, but a record of loyalty to the ruling party being rewarded and legitimized by U.S. aid. One of the challenges is that we've seen not just individuals move from unit to unit, but seen units given different mandates or that just their titles have been changed. Which is one of the problems that we're seeing slipping through the vetting requirements. We know that U.S. military aid is intended to improve the professionalism of the Cambodian armed forces, but there are disturbing signs that RCAF is in fact becoming more politicized and less professional, and that known human rights abusers are gaining increasing power within the RCAF structure. For example, General Ahoy Pisset, now an Undersecretary of State in the Ministry of Defense, is former commander of Brigade 70. In January 2009, which is another unit that has a very poor track record. In January 2009, the government announced the appointment of 7 new Deputy RCAF Commanders-in-Chief, including Military Intelligence Chief Mol Rup, Military Police Chief Sao Saka, and Hing Bon Heng, Brigade 70 Deputy Commander, at the time of the 1997 grenade attack on an opposition rally that killed 16 people and wounded an American. All of these men have clear records as human rights abusers. Training has also been offered to elite units that are notorious for the impunity enjoyed by their members, as well as to personnel from the Prime Minister Hun Sen's bodyguard unit, which has been implicated in countless rights abuses, including the 1997 massacre to which I just referred, under the cover of a newly created special anti-terrorism unit. The U.S. has given the impression that it has forgotten or lost interest in the human rights record of some of these units or individuals. And while the U.S. may have policy reasons to work with the Cambodian security forces on subjects such as counter-terror, it should work just as hard on holding abusers accountable and ending the culture of impunity that exists for high-ranking members of the security forces and those close to Hun Sen. A quick word on some recommendations, particularly with respect to training and assistance on military matters. That all training and military and material support, including visits to the U.S., that's a big one. That's a big perk for members of RCAF. And exchange programs should be conditioned on a serious and systematic vetting process. We think you have to consider going a little bit further, a little bit harder than what Leahy requires because of these shifts between units and changes in name. The U.S. also should provide a public report on the nature of assistance and training to the Cambodian security services. We have developed a long list of questions about particular units. We would be happy to share that with you and work with you on, asking for some more information to be forthcoming on exactly who's getting what and under what circumstances. All of these problems are really a function of impunity in Cambodia. Very few people are ever prosecuted, perhaps with the exception of Sochua, for real crimes. And certainly senior people in the government are not held accountable. And ending ongoing abuses and the culture of impunity really has to be one of the main purposes of U.S. policy in Cambodia. Otherwise, we are nowhere further down the track than we were in 1991 when we signed the Paris Agreements. Without an end to impunity, the rule of law, good governance, and a host of other goals will be unobtainable. The appointment of Ambassador Carol Rodley, who previously served in the U.S. Embassy in Cambodia in the late 1990s, means that the institutional memory that has often been lacking in Cambodia is now in place. Her appointment provides an opportunity for the U.S. to weigh in on long unresolved cases of impunity, such as the 1997 grenade attack and summary executions committed after the 1997 coup, extrajudicial killings before, during, and after the marred 1998 elections, as well as more recent rights violations such as excessive use of force by soldiers and police in forced evictions, the assassinations of labor leaders and journalists, and the near monopoly over the broadcast media by the ruling CPP. Ambassador Rodley will be well aware of the main actors in the high level of corruption which often fuels abuses. As a closing recommendation, I urge that as we consider what can be done differently through the lens of U.S. policy, that we be mindful of the extraordinary degree of commingling of political, economic, and military interests amongst the Cambodian elite. I think Hun Sen is a young man. He's not going to go away anytime soon. The idea that the CPP would not be in power remains frustratingly inconceivable. Yet, essentially, what's happening beneath the surface now is we see literally the marriage of particular political interests, military interests, and economic interests, which suggests to me, at least, that we're going to be dealing with some of these same kinds of problems and some similar personalities for quite some time to come. I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate all of your testimony. Let me just say that our friends who are here from Cambodia, I'm after listening to all the testimony, I'm worried about you. Are there things that we can do here to ensure your security? The embassy, should the embassy be doing something more than it is? I mean, again, you coming here, you all spoke very frankly and truthfully. I just want to emphasize the fact that if there's any problem at all, call me, call any of us directly, because we invited you here. We want to hear truthfully what the situation is and try to figure out how we can help it. If there anything we can do, please let us know. I have just one, my colleagues have a question. I just have one question. It has to do with China's influence. And by some estimates, China has become one of the largest sources of foreign assistance in Cambodia, including a pledge of $257 million of assistance in 2009 in economic investments in infrastructure and energy projects. Some experts argue that China's assistance has undermined attempts by other major aid donors, particularly European ones, to tie aid to human rights.